she is expected to only cut the tip of the sexual sensitive part in the girl so that she is not hyper-sexually active. This is the purpose. You see, in societies where circumcision of girls is completely prohibited, hypersexuality takes over the entire society, and a woman is not satisfied with one person or two or three. This is, God forbid, is now happening even in Muslim societies where they prohibit circumcision.
In a radio interview, Mufti Ismail Berdiev defended the practice, saying, all women must be circumcised in order to prevent depravity on the earth and reduce sexuality.
The chief imam here preaches that FGM is enshrined in Islamic law and that genital mutilation is good for women. Why?
Because I know that women who have a clitoris suffer from an irritating itching. They want to scratch it all the time. And what's more, it makes a woman leak water from her private parts.
I've had a clitoris for 60 years, and this has never happened to me.
Well, you are therefore an exception among women.
فالخفاض مش لكل البنات ولكن لبعض البنات.
مين هن بعض البنات؟
اقول لك بعض البنات. انا هحكي لحضرتك. انا اتصلت بي مره فتاه ولا استحياء في الدين طبعا. اتصلت بي بنت وقالت لي انا يا دكتور عندما اركب المترو وانا لابسه بنطلون جينز ضيق بيترك المترو بيها في مصر. بتقول لي بتحصل لي حاله اثاره شديده جدا، ماذا افعل؟
حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل.
سألت طبيب. انا بحكي لك على اللي حصل وانا اعوذ بالله، انا ماليش دعوه بيها، هي تقول زي ما عايزه، لكن انا سالت طبيب فقال لي فعلا هذه البنت البذر عندها عالي جدا ومرتفع جدا ولا بد من قطع جزء يسير منه. جابوا عينه من المجتمع، كانت النتيجه ان هناك عده عوامل ادت الى عفه الفتاه المصريه. كان أول حاجة فيها خفاض الإناث،
لا إله إلا الله،
والثاني الحياء، ثم متابعة الأم بسلوك الابنة وتقديم النصيحة لها، ثم المحافظة على الصلاة. في مصر بالذات تحديدا مثلا عندنا حوالي 4.5 مليون بنت عانس، والعانس تعريفها الإجرائي إيه؟ من بلغ سن 30 سنة ولم يتقدم لها عريس حتى الآن. عندنا عنوسة في الوطن العربي، فإحنا مش عايزين نثير للبنات الختان لمن تحتاج عفة وكرامة وطهارة.
In some cultures where they believe women are hypersexual, some cultures, unfortunately, they go to ridiculous means to try and control that, whether it's in the form of like female genital mutilation or female genital cutting, X, Y, and Z. And even within our tradition, and this is something that, especially when I'm working with non-Muslims, I'm trying to help them understand, even Muslims as well, understanding what some scholars have said. And I'm just by way of, I do not support female genital mutilation or anything like that, but there is conversation about female circumcision. But if you listen to what some of the scholars have said, and this is something that a number of non-Muslims are attacking Muslims and Islam about, where we know like there are certain hadiths, and it's mentioned in all of the four madhahib, that scholars do permit a form of female genital cutting. And generally what that refers to is either a slight incision, like slight nick, ritual nick, of the clitoral glands or the clitoral hood, or is some scholars, they say it's permitted to remove the clitoral hood but not the gland, like you don't touch the clitoris.
Yes. And
unfortunately you find some scholars who actually have said or misunderstood that and said that no, you can cut the clitoris because the reason why you cut the clitoris is to moderate female desire, because they had this belief that women have excessive lust. So in their eye, they were thinking that when the Prophet said ashimi wala tunhiki, like cut lightly but do not cut excessively, it was referring to like a light cut of the clitoris because that will moderate women's desire, so it's like a man.
Yeah,
so
and the reason for that,
understanding the context.
Did that have to do with like the size of some women? Where the larger it was, it might have caused them to be aroused more often? Or, I mean, I've been a while since I read the discussion, but it wasn't like the default that it should be like. I could be wrong here. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's something I've looked into quite heavily because female genital cutting and mutilation is widely practiced in parts of West Africa where I'm from and parts of East Africa. Is something that I'm actually quite passionate about and trying to help people understand that Islamically we're not supposed to be mutilating young girls and women and cutting off the clitoris and things like that. And where people are taking some hadith or some statement from some scholars and misapplying it and abusing it in the name of like purifying or saving the girl or making sure that she doesn't commit sin and stuff like that. So this is like an abuse of the religion kind of thing.
Yes.
And And on the other side, because I know, I mean, fortunately, correct me if I'm wrong, that female genital cutting is not widely practiced in the Indian subcontinent, apart from like a Shia sect called Adodi. A lot of South Asians that I speak to, they're like, no, there's no such thing in
Right.
female circumcision in Islamic tradition. It's like, because it's not practiced.
It's the Dawoodi Bohras. The
the
Bohras,
culture.
they do that.
Yeah, because
and oddly enough,
so it's
they
about
came out of Yemen. So oddly enough, they came out from that region.
Yeah. So where there's and there was even, I'm not going to name, there was there was a case of a famous, well, not famous, but a popular imam. He was talking about female circumcision in America, and he mentioned that, you know, the reason why non-Muslim women are hypersexual is because they haven't been circumcised. And this is problematic. And it went viral, and again, because he was quoting what some scholars of the past had said, and there are some scholars who did say that. But again, that's their opinion, but there's no hadith that supports that. And in actuality, when the Prophet ﷺ, the rationale for, I know there's some debate in terms of the authenticity of that particular hadith when he spoke to Atiyah, but the rationale for that was so that the woman has a brightened face, i.e. more satisfied, and the husband is more pleased with her. And what scholars of the past have said, the rationale behind that is because if you remove the clitoral hood, it exposes the clitoral gland, so during intercourse, it's easy to stimulate, so she's more likely to experience an orgasm.
Yes.
And what's crazy about it is that, not the particular hadith I'm saying, is that in Western cultures now, they've got a practice known as clitoral hoodectomy.
Yeah.
And clitoral hoodectomy is the same as that what scholars spoke about, like the Islamic female circumcision. And they speak about the sexual benefits of this particular cosmetic surgery. But when it's practiced in the West, whether it's in Europe, America, or Australia, it's cosmetic surgery, it's female genital cosmetic surgery. If it's practiced by Muslims or brown and black people, it's female genital mutilation.
Yeah. That's
so Muslims understand the difference, sorry?
Yeah, no, I'm saying that's so interesting because Islamically, I mean, I think even from a cultural perspective, we have to separate the difference between FGM and actual, you know, circumcision, right? Which and like even right now in America, they have rejuvenation surgeries, right? Where they, even if it's not badly looking or whatever used, like they will make it look more appealing, and they will take away certain areas to make it more accessible, right? Especially the clitoris, right? No, it's true. They'll do that. And so the idea is that, but what he's saying is a double standard is that they don't call that FGM, right? Yeah. They just simply say that, oh, that's a health benefit, right? The same way that we would view the circumcision of males as a health benefit, right? There's numerous articles about, you know, decline or avoiding penile cancer, avoiding, you know, dirt and UTIs and so many things they go into. And there are medical benefits of doing this in certain cases. Yeah. If it's done properly. Yeah. But unfortunately, like he's mentioning, that there are certain people who have taken this to a degree where they've gone excessive in it, or to the point where they've taken off other parts of the vagina, not just, you know, the hood of the clitoris. They've even tried to begin to sew things up, and this is the FGM, and I don't think anyone here, any scholar, would advocate for that.
Yeah, I have a question about. So
I think it's just to put a so important point. And I heard one of Mort, you said this in one podcast, and I loved it. When you're speaking about how, like, when we do da'wah and stuff like that, it's not about what the Bible says or what Christianity says and comparing from an Islamic perspective what the Qur'an says. We should start from our own tradition. We should be defining like certain of these terms and things like that. And that's the case with like FGM and female circumcision. We as Muslims, I think far too much of us, we have somewhat of an inferiority complex where we wait for the West to define and say, this is abuse, this is FGM, this is this is that. And then we try to understand within our tradition, what does it fit into?
Right.
Sure.
And I think that's something that's quite problematic, because like you mentioned, whether it's, you know, labiaplasty, that, and it's I don't know if, I'm not saying you've watched the Barbie film, but that's something that is, have you heard of like the designer vagina, the Barbie vagina?
Yes.
That's really popular as well.
Yes.
And again, this whole idea of having this, you know, because of porn, because of this idea of having a total nipped in vulva where you can't see any lips and things like that, you're having a lot of women, even in the UK as young as 9, having this surgery called labiaplasty where the inner lips, the vulva lips.
Wow, 9 years old?
Yeah, as young as 9 years old.
I mean, this was originally called rejuvenation, and it was done generally for older women that had children or had intercourse, and obviously things get, they change, right? And so it was meant for them to feel more comfortable about their body and to look younger, right? And I'm surprised at 9 years old they're doing this stuff.
So we talked about the clitoris a lot, right? So I have a very technical question now, because I think we got to start talking about, like, people are tuning in because they basically want to know how to get their women off.